Gauravani Pacharane Nivase Shasunyavadi Pashyati Desatane. Om Aginati Minandasya Janajana Salakaya Saksu Samilatan Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Caitanya Manubhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam. Ansakapatubhyas Chakripasinubhe Vata Patitanam Brahmanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. So, Rupa Goswami had written a verse in his from the Dagda Madhava, Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. And when Mahaprabhu saw it, and the first thing he remarked was how beautiful his handwriting is. It was like, anyone remember what it was like? A string of pearls, just very beautiful and well formed. And that indicates the consciousness. People can actually read one's character by looking at the handwriting. There's people who know that art. So Rupa Goswami's consciousness is like a string of pearls, very, very pure and effulgent. So when Mahaprabhu picked up this verse that Rupa Goswami had written on a palm leaf, patra, and then he looked at it and read it, and he was amazed, because it described the holy names of Krishna in such a way. I was just listening to a lecture by Hari Parasad. Do you know him? And he was talking about this verse. So he explained it in such it was a literal but really wonderful way. But it was basically the same conclusion, that this tunde tundavani ritim matunate tundavali labdate, that it's dancing, it's a dancer. There's Tandavini, because also Lord Shiva does his Tandavi dance. But this dancer, it's in the feminine, and she's dancing in it's dancing in the mouth, in the courtyard of, not the courtyard of the mouth, but in the mouth. So the holy names, these two syllables, are dancing like a beautiful female dancer in the courtyard of the mouth, not the courtyard, but in the mouth. Ratim, dancing and such expiring. Vitanote means expanding. So by the power of her dancing, she's expanding her influence. It appears to dance within the mouth, and then because of that dancing, she wants to expand, and to many, many, many mouths, to unlimited mouths. And that's the nature of the two syllables, Krishna. It wants to taste the expansion of many, many millions of mouths. So in other words, one desires many millions of mouths, but also it desires to spread, to be chanted by many millions of mouths. So that's in the mouth. So the first manifestation of the holy names is Tunde, in the mouth. And then the next is Kana Krodha Kadambani Gatayate Kanaya Buddhe Bhubhyo Spriham. So the next manifestation of the holy names after it's coming out of the mouth, it's in the ear. The whole of the ear. And Kadambani Gatayate, he explains that there's a particular type of spinach. And I can't remember, Kala, it has a Bengali name and a local name too. It's when you put it in a pond, it just wants to take over the whole pond. We see those with the water lilies around here. You put one of these water lilies in the pond, and it takes over the entire pond so that there's no more room and expands. So both the holy names and the Hare Krishna, So both the holy names in the mouth and the holy names in the ear, they have this tendency to expand and take over everything. And when the holy name takes over from the mouth and then the ears, and it takes over everything, so it's Tunde, the ears, then the mouth, and Karna, the ears, and then Chaita, then the consciousness. So these three are the way that the holy names expands. Prangana Sangini Vidayate Savendiram. It takes over all the senses. If somehow or another the holy names, by it taking over our tongue and then taking over our ears, then it will take over our consciousness and completely control the senses. It will control us. And that is the desire of the devotee. And this is the natural tendency of the holy name when chanted in such a wonderful way. And there, no jane janita kiadbir amrita, this nectar, krishneti vana dvai, the two syllables of just the simple syllables of Krishna. So to chant in this way, when the influence of the holy name expands from the tongue to the ear, and then takes over the consciousness. So he's just, Srila Rupa Goswami has described this in a very, very sweet way, in a very wonderful way. Just the power of the two syllables of Krishna, and then in the second verse of Shikshastakam, and then Mahaprabhu explains the power of the holy names. And the first and second verse are very similar. The Chaito Darpana Marjanam, and then Nam Nama Koti Bahuda Savasaki. It has all the potencies of Krishna. And the holy names have all the potency of Krishna, this tendency to want to expand with its beauty and sweetness. This amrita, this sweetness, the nectarian sweetness of the holy names wants to take over everything. But then Mahaprabhu laments, Durdaiva Midrisam Mihanano. But I'm so unfortunate, although this gift of Krishna, of giving himself in the form of the holy names, is here, take it. There's no, I'm here in the form of the holy names. Even our Duibai, they go to sleep in Nandagram sometimes, and the curtains close and no one goes in. But the holy names, there's no limitation at all. There's no time when one niyamena smana kala, there's no stopping, no place, no time, no circumstances when one can't have Krishna's association through the holy name. So but then Durdaiva Midrisami, Nanunaga, no attachment, no attraction to the holy names. And it's not that I don't have attraction for other things, have so many attractions, but for Krishna in this so accessible form. So Mahaprabhu then explains that this is actually a misfortune. So when one actually realizes one's misfortune, because it's so the holy names are always there, and naturally, if we want to associate with Krishna, we can chant the holy names and associate with Krishna at any time, but we don't have attraction. So what is the natural result of that, of understanding a misfortune? That if someone's giving you 1 billion rupees or 100 billion rupees, but you don't have the attraction to take it, so that's of course, you would be able to get it. You would want it, and you'd have that. No, we just build everything and put in all the trees and everything. Do some seva. But so when one recognizes the unfortunate state of one's consciousness, then the next verse comes. Trinada Pisane Chena. Then one realizes one's unfortunate condition, that Krishna is right there, take me, at any time, any place, no qualifications. And then in that state, when one actually becomes humble, then one can constantly chant the holy names. And part of humility isn't just thinking about how unfortunate one is, but humility is the other part of it, is taking shelter of Krishna. And in that sense, the deeper one's humility, the deeper one's dainya is, as Srila Sanatana Goswami explains, then the deeper one's prem will be. And there's one verse, because tomorrow is the appearance of Radhika, and so we're thinking of Srimati Radharani. And there's one verse that was a favorite of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's from the Padyavali. Where Srimati Radharani is speaking to Krishna and Kurukshetra and saying, because he's caught. Of course, you've been to Kurukshetra, and you've been to Kurukshetra. Have you been? No. These Prispasis, they don't go unless it's eclipse. Unless that's the excuse to go. Unless Krishna is there. So there's this one kund called Sanihit Sarov. You know that one? That's where the gopis met with Krishna. And there's, at the end of the 82nd chapter of the 10th canto, they actually have their meeting, because they're surrounded by, there's so many people, and everyone wants to see Krishna and Balaram. And there's this one description where Krishna, the Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj are in the tent. And of course, that's because there's no building. Everyone sets up their tent. So Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Maya are in the tent. And then Krishna and Balaram come in, and they haven't seen each other. So immediately they run over, and even though they're already older, they jump onto the laps of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, and they're in complete. All four of them are overwhelmed by tears and ecstasies. And then at the same time, Rohini Devi comes in with Devaki. And when Devaki sees this ecstasy of Krishna Balaram with Nandini Yashoda, she gets disturbed. So there's one verse that she speaks where she says, you really did something wonderful, because even though these boys weren't your boys, you took care of them so nicely, even though Krishna's my son. And the meaning, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the meaning in such a wonderful way. She's so shocked at the ecstasy, the absorption of Nandini and Yashoda Maya and Krishna Balaram, that she wants to say something, and she says basically that even though these boys aren't yours, meaning to say they're not your sons at all actually, but they're mine, or Krishna's mine, you've taken care of them so nicely, even though they're not actually your sons. And Rohini understands this is a very difficult situation, so she finds an excuse to take Devaki out. And then the question is asked, how did Nanda and Yashoda and Krishna Balaram react to this statement. And the answer that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in the Shastra, they didn't react at all. They didn't even hear it. They were just so absorbed in the affection, of the exchange of affection. They didn't even hear it. But yet that exchange ends, and then they go outside, and the gopis finally have their chance to be with Krishna. And because earlier in the 39th chapter, then we really hear of the separation of the gopis, the Viraha Gita, how the only thing that keeps them alive, as Krishna says, ayasya iti dautikai, through the messengers. He says, I am coming, I will return. I am coming. And that's what basically they kept alive, because they trusted Krishna's words completely. And when he says that he's coming, he's going to come back, and if we're not alive, he's going to feel terrible. So we have to keep alive. We have to stay alive just so that Krishna doesn't experience any pain or difficulty. So everything was for Krishna. So then when they finally see him after some time in Kura, etc., the exchange is the actual meaning of Rath Yatra, where they're there together, but something is missing. And that, of course, is Vrindavan. So Rath Yatra is the bringing of Krishna back to Vrindavan. Gundicha and Puri is Vrindavan, and Sri Mandir is Dwarka, or etc. Dwarka. So, but in any case, Krishna feels caught because he hadn't returned. This is on the prakat level in the Leela. He hadn't returned, so he starts speaking. Maybe you're thinking I'm ungrateful, this or that, and then he starts speaking some philosophy, just as the same philosophy that was in one of the messages, on one interpretation of one of the messages that he sent with Uddhava. So there's a verse from Padavali that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very fond of, and he would recite it, and it describes Srimati Radharani's response to Krishna's feeling bad, and it was just no. We belong to you, so you can treat us any way you want, and we don't have any way of complaining. But of course, it was said in a completely sweet way. But it was so humble. It was so humble. And that humility, that danya, Srila Sanatana Goswami describes, is actually prema. And true humility is prema. And prema means humility, but it's not something that can be imitated or faked, but it's actually just appreciating the wondrousness of wonderful Krishna, and feeling insignificant and useless, etc., in front of Krishna. And that also comes out in when Uddhav visits Vrindavan in chapter 46 of the 10th canto. There's an incredible exchange between Nanda Maharaj, because Yashoda Maya doesn't say anything, and that because she's too overwhelmed by separation, and she's also some of our acharyas explain that she's not experiencing separation because she's experiencing Krishna. She's wondering why Nanda Maharaj is in so much anxiety that Krishna isn't there. But there's been no cooking in the house. There's been nothing going on in the house. So there's one when Mahaprabhu was asked about his crying when he's chanting and saying, someone says to him, I think it's in Madhya Lila, 24th chapter, you have so much love for Krishna. And he said, no. Not even the fragrance of love for Krishna, what to speak of the substance. And then he explains, there is no separation from Krishna that's actually possible in this world. Because if someone, when you're saying there can't be love and separation can't go together in this world, because if there is separation, then the person will die. That's love. So Mahaprabhu was speaking like this, but you're just crying. You say you have no love, but you're crying. And he says, this is just my false show of my good fortune, how wonderful I am. But I don't actually have any love of Krishna. So that's such humility. Such complete humility accompanies prema bhakti. So this is the holy names are Krishna. And when the holy name dances in the courtyard of the heart, it conquers the activities of the mind. And therefore all the senses become inert. One becomes stunned. One becomes completely absorbed in Krishna in this form. So Kaviraj Goswami more or less gives a comment before this section ends, and says one has to learn about the beauty and transcendental position of the holy name of the Lord by hearing the revealed scriptures from the mouths of devotees. Nowhere else can we hear of the sweetness of the Lord's holy name. So that section ends, and Mahaprabhu embraced Haridas. So Haridas got the first test because he was there when Rupa Goswami, when Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami were interacting on this verse, and he was in ecstasy to hear the holy names being glorified in such a poetic way by Rupa Goswami, and he was dancing in ecstasy. He was jubilant. Nachate lagila. And he was just praising the meaning of the verse in glorification. But that's not the last test. So what does that mean? That Thakur Haridas, even though he's the Namacharya, and this is one of the reasons he is the Namacharya, he has no envy in his heart. But now the curtain closes and the next scene begins. On the next day, after visiting the temple of Lord Jagannath as usual, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu met Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Ramananda Roy, and Swarup Damodar. They all went together to Sri Rupa Goswami, and on the way, the Lord greatly praised the qualities of Sri Rupa. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu recited the two important verses, he felt great pleasure thus. As if he had 5 mouths, he began to praise his devotee. He began to praise Rupa Goswami. So the one verse is the one was earlier recited about Priyosiyam, about how the inner mood of Mahaprabhu was being revealed by Rupa Goswami in the verse that he was chanting during Rath Yatra, of bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. And the second one is this Tunde Tundamvani verse. glorifying the holy name. So he just recited these verses in front of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy, just glorifying Rupa Goswami. And these two especially were famous for their scholarship. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, as we spoke about previously, was famous. He was known, a historical figure. He was known as the greatest scholar of his time. He was established Navanyaya in Navadvip, and then he was so powerful a teacher, it overtook Matila as the foundational school for Navanyaya, and Navadvip became such a powerful university town, so to speak. And Ramananda Roy was the author of he was what's the word, not employed but sponsored, not sponsored, but what's the word where you supported, something like supported, patronized Jagannath. What's the name of his drama? I always think of it as Jagannath Priya Natakam, but that was the one that Tamal Krishna Maharaj wrote. Jagannath Ballava Natakam. Yeah, Ballava, Jagannath Ballava Natakam. So, and have you read that? Yeah, so when you read that, he also, every once in a while, he'll praise Maharaj Prataparu's written that. You have to do that, because he's the king. And he's the one sponsoring, he's the one patronizing you, supporting you. So he was, and everything was according to the Natak Shastra. So he was an expert, and he was famous, he was revered, and his dramas were performed in the temple, the Jagannath temple. So in front of these two, Mahaprabhu began praising Rupa Goswami, and Sarvabhauma Ramanande Pariksha Korite. He was examining them. It says, Sri Rupera Guna Duhara Lagila Kohite. So therefore he was praising the transcendental qualities of Rupa Goswami in front of them. So why was he examining them? Because first of all, he was showing he wanted to glorify them as free from envy. Because what's going to happen now is that the two plays, or parts of the two plays that Rupa Goswami has composed, he's going to ask Rupa Goswami to read them in front of this great scholar and this great natak writer, drama writer. So before you can judge another's the quality of another's work, one has to be free from all envy of that person. Otherwise, the envy will cause a bias, a fault in you, and you to find fault in their work. And what Mahaprabhu was doing, on the other hand, so one is to glorify Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy, and what he's doing is he wants to establish Rupa Goswami's position. Because what Rupa Goswami has done with these dramas is set a standard, and this comes out a little bit later in the 5th chapter. He wants to set a standard because he's empowered Rupa Goswami in two ways. One is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and he's even placed his lotus feet upon the head of Rupa Goswami. He's empowered him and instructed him to write Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is the basic process of devotional service that one has to follow to attain the result of devotional service, which is prema bhakti. So, but here there's going to be another empowerment and another establishing Rupa Goswami as the authority, and that is as a dramatist, the writer of Natak Shastra. And why are these dramas so important? Is because at some point in devotional service, when one is more advanced and is free from material desires and wants to become absorbed in Krishna Lila, these dramas and other shastras, following the standards that Rupa Goswami is setting, these are essential because one has to be able to think about Krishna's pastimes at that time to become fully absorbed. So this is the bhajan that Mahaprabhu was actually going to exhibit and teach at the end of Antya Lila, how to become absorbed in the pastimes of Krishna. So there's two levels of the absorption. One is the more Vaidhi level, and Vaidhi isn't, because Vaidhi Bhakti, just practiced as Vaidhi Bhakti, brings one to Vaikuntha. But Vaidhi Bhakti practiced in support of Ragmarg brings one to Goloka Vrindavan. So one has to, so Mahaprabhu is teaching, and he starts with, so there's two levels of the practice. One is mantra upasana, where you're just hearing where a verse goes in your mind and you're visualizing the pastimes. This is, say, an advanced stage of bhakti. One's chanting and chanting and chanting, and then there's verses that come to one's mind. And then, so the meditation on a verse is this mantra upasana, where you're worshiping the verse, practically speaking. And then when the verse sort of expands in your mind, and you see the other parts of the pastime after this, and this is described by Srila Jiva Goswami in Bhakti Sandarbha, then that's called Swarasiki. And that's what Mahaprabhu was doing. That's what Mahaprabhu was doing, and that's described in the later part. He's chanting continuously, and then with the support of Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy, he says a verse, and then he describes that verse further as it expands in his consciousness. And Ramananda Roy they're both, and Swarup Damodar, they're reciting further verses and more songs. So this is talking about the very deep levels of Krishna consciousness on the way to Prema Bhakti. But here, the authority of Rupa Goswami is being established because Mahaprabhu is going to have the quality of his work examined by two great scholars, and he himself is going to mention that he's empowered, that Rupa Goswami is empowered, because one can't do this kind of writing unless Krishna Shakti is working through you. So he's examining them to glorify them as free from envy, and even though they're exalted personalities, they're not of this world, practically speaking, because envy is the essence of being in this world. Envy is born of ahankara, false ego, and the material world is based on ahankara. When one described one in the 26th chapter of the 3rd canto, then that's what's described by Kapila Muni to Devahuti, how the material world is just, its basis, its actual basis is the combination of false ego with the three modes of material nature, and everything expands from that. And the essence of ahankar is the presence of envy, false ego, false sense of self. Krishna Buddhi says, I've turned my back on Krishna and I want to be the center. And that's false ego. It's not who we are. So every material person with material consciousness, every conditioned soul, ultimately, even if they don't appear externally to be like that, but inside there's envy. And when one is envious of others, one just imagine how envious one is of Krishna. And that's the essence of why we turn our back on Krishna. So then, after explaining that Mahaprabhu began to praise Srila Rupa, to examine them, pariksha korite, then the next verse is Ishvara Swabhav Bhaktera Nalai Aparad Alpaseva Bahumane Atma Prajanta Prasad. Characteristically, the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not take seriously an offense committed by a pure devotee. The Lord accepts whatever small service a devotee renders as being such a great service that he's prepared to give himself what to speak of other benedictions. Then quoting from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So this is the quality of the Supreme Lord, because he's doing something here to actually praise his devotees, because these three, and Srup Damodar is also there too, and later on Raghunath Das is there, that they're so exalted and this we also see in the 32nd chapter of the 10th canto, when the gopis are thinking that they want to catch Krishna saying that he's selfish for leaving the rasa dance, but then they understand that he wants them to, he's done what he's done just to establish the purity and the exalted nature of the gopis, that their concern is so exalted, their love is beyond compare. So Krishna's here, Kaviraj Goswami is explaining that Ishvara Swabhav, this is the very nature of the Lord, that he Atma Prajanta Mane, he gives himself to his devotees. Atma Prajanta Vedanyata, he gives himself to his devotees. What to speak of giving what any other thing a devotee may want, and the devotee doesn't want. This is described in the second verse of the 39th chapter, of the 10th canto, which I'm studying, when Akura sees that all the things he had desired on his way to Vrindavan, everything gets fulfilled. And so there's some verses describing this, and saying that, but the nature of the devotee is that he doesn't request the Lord for anything himself, because they're interested in his pleasure. So the next verse is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, just underlining this point. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Purushottam, the greatest of all person, has a pure mind. He is so gentle that even if his servant is implicated in a great offense, he does not take it very seriously. Indeed, if his servant renders some small service, the Lord accepts it as being very great. Even if an envious person blasphemes the Lord never manifests anger against him. Such are his great qualities. So then, Mahaprabhu's coming. He's just examined Ramananda Roy and Sarvabhauma. Of course, we'll hear how they react to Rupa Goswami's writings. But so they're coming, all of them come together, and Rupa and Haridas Thakur are there. And when Haridas and Rupa sees that Mahaprabhu has come with his intimate devotees, immediately they fall down like logs, dandavat, and offer prayers to their lotus feet. Tarana Bandhan. Thus, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal devotees met Rupa Goswami and Haridas Thakur. The Lord that then sat down in an elevated place with his devotees. Rupa Goswami and Haridas Thakur sat at the foot of the elevated place where Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was sitting. Though everyone asked them to sit on the same level as the Lord and his associates, they did not do so. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Rupa Goswami, because otherwise he had said specifically, Prabhu Agya Koila, he ordered him to read it. Otherwise he wouldn't want to read his verse, what he's written. So he orders Rupa Goswami to read the verse they had previously heard. Rupa Goswami, because of great shyness, Lajja, he did not read it, but instead remained silent. He wouldn't read it in front of them. Then Swarup Damodar Goswami recited the verse, and when all the devotees heard it, their minds were struck with wonder. That's the Priyosiyam Krishna Sahachari Kuru Chetra Militas Tataham Saradhata Didam Ubayo Sagamas Sukham Tatapyanta Kelan Madura Murali Panchamaluse Mano Me Kalindi Pulina Vipanaya Sprihayati. My dear friend, now I have met my very old and dear friend Krishna on this field of Kurukshetra. I am the same Radharani, and now we are meeting together. It is very pleasant, but I would still like to go to the bank of the Jamuna beneath the trees of the forest there. I wish to hear the vibration of his sweet flute playing the fifth note within the forest of Vrindavan. So which is the fifth note? Do you remember?
It changes. It changes from the one who sings it. This is actually in the Indian
Raga system of Ragini.
But normally it would be also in G. But this depends on who sings it.
On the key that they're singing in. So after hearing this verse, Ramananda Roy and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya say to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, so here is their mood upon hearing it, and they've heard the glorification of Rupa Goswami, and if they have envy in their heart, they're going to say, oh, yeah, it's not bad, but there's always going to be a but. But, this line could be a little bit improved, or so. But this is what they say. This is what both of them say. Ramananda Roy and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, without your special mercy, Tomara prasadevina, without your special mercy, Tomara riddhaya e janila kemane. Without your special mercy, how could this Rupa Goswami have understood your mind? Because this was Mahaprabhu's internal mood, the mood of Radharani during Rath Yatra, and he would recite a corresponding verse. So, to actually deeply understand these very secret, esoteric subjects, to actually realize them, not just talk, but actually realize them. In Rupa Goswami's writing, you can't write in that way unless it's coming from deep realization, not theoretical. Without your special mercy, how could this Rupa Goswami have understood your mind? So what are they saying? That this Rupa is empowered by you. That's what we get by hearing his verses. Sri Ramananda Roy said that previously Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu had empowered his heart so that he could express elevated, conclusive statements to which even Lord Brahma has no access. So this occurs in the Ramananda Samvad in the 8th chapter of Madhya Lila, where Mahaprabhu asks Ramananda Roy questions, And Ramananda Roy answers the questions of Mahaprabhu, but he's saying, I'm just like a stringed instrument that is vibrating, and you're making the vibrations come. It's coming through me, but it's actually you. I'm just speaking through you. I'm speaking, but it's you who's speaking through me. And the example that's given is like Mahaprabhu is the ocean, and Ramananda Roy is the cloud. So the cloud gets the water from the ocean and then rains back on the ocean. So that's Mahaprabhu is giving it to the substance to Ramananda Roy, and Ramananda Roy is speaking that to Mahaprabhu. Then Ramananda Roy says, had you not previously bestowed your mercy on him, they both said this is they, not just him, Purva Tamara Panache Prasad, and unless you previously bestowed your mercy on him, it would not have been possible for him to express your internal feelings, because you don't know what's really going on in someone's heart until you have such a relationship with them that they'll tell you. Because there's so many layers to who we are. So Krishna also has so many layers. He's going to, and I think we spoke about that yesterday, that he reveals himself according to how we approach him, the mood in which we approach him. So if we approach him with an atheistical mood, he'll reveal nothing, because we think he's nothing. If we approach him with great love and attachment to him, then he reveals himself according to the depth of that love and attachment, because only someone who we completely trust, we reveal everything to. And who do we completely trust? Only someone who we're 100% sure that they love us so much they would never take advantage of these very secret parts of us. So had you not previously bestowed your mercy on him, and unless you revealed everything to him, it would not have been possible for him to express your internal feelings. That's the mercy of Krishna, is when he shows his internal mood and shows who he really is and what he really likes, and that's really Braja and the relationship with the Brijbasis. And here's Prabhupada's purport. Devotees acknowledge Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's special mercy upon Srila Rupa Goswami in the following words. Sri Caitanya Manubhishtam Stapitam Jaina Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadam Hayam Dadati Sa Pandantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who is established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? The special function of Srila Rupa Goswami is to establish the feelings of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Let the world know the feelings, what's actually going on inside the heart of Mahaprabhu. These feelings are his desire that his special mercy be spread throughout the world in this Kali Yuga. And Prativiti Yati Nagaradi Gram Savatra Pacha Hoibe Moranam. So Prabhupada is not being completely direct in one sense. He's saying the preaching, but he's saying that the whole heart of Mahaprabhu he wants spread in a very careful way. The desire of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is that all over the world, everyone in every village and every town know of him and his Sankirtan movement. These are the inner feelings of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So Prabhupada is speaking on that level, actually. Sri Rupa Goswami committed to writing all these feelings of the Lord. Yeah, so that everyone know the feelings of the Lord, who Mahaprabhu is, and what he's come to give. Now again, by the mercy of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the same feelings are being spread over the world by the servants of the Goswamis and devotees who are pure and simple. And devotees who are pure and simple will appreciate this attempt. As concluded by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, however, those who are on the level of hogs and dogs will never appreciate such a great attempt. Yet this does not matter to the preachers of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's cult, for all over the world they will continue to perform this responsible work, even though persons who are like cats and dogs, so they're hogs and dogs and cats and dogs, do not appreciate them. So just imagine how painful Prabhupada, how much pain he actually experienced when the people who knew about Mahaprabhu's mercy and knew so much about Mahaprabhu were criticizing and standing in the way. So this is coming from a very secret place in one sense. And Prabhupada was such a servant that he just went ahead with it all. And then just one last verse, which we'll read again next time. Then Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu said, "My dear Rupa, please recite that verse from your drama, which upon being heard makes all people's unhappiness and lamentation go away." So he's already recited that one verse, and now he's going to recite the Tundavani verse. He's going to make Rupa Goswami do it. Say it out loud. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments or thoughts that would be nice to express?
This is in the mid part of this reading, you were saying about separation, and the feelings of brotherly there in the Kurukshetra and all these things. So we read a lot that how this separation is so important through the writings of Rupa Goswami also, like he's mentioned separation and all that. And ultimately, separation is leading you to union, right? Which is actually the enjoyment part of that. So, and moreover, we see the major thing is union, that unless there is a union, there is no joy. And separation brings you more feelings, towards that.
But not only that, but unless you can't want separation, because then you won't feel separation. You have to want union.
Yeah,
and then you'll feel, and then only then you can feel separation.
That's what I'm saying. So it leads you towards union.
But yeah, go ahead.
But my question was that, throughout this the Leela of Mahaprabhu and throughout the readings of Goswamis, it's very less we read about union. It's more about it's a separation. So and there we see that it's leading towards union, and unless you want to enjoy the part of union, how you will develop that taste for the separation.
See, this is the conclusion of the question that Mahaprabhu asks Ramananda Roy in the 8th chapter, this topic. And in the answer to that question. And the answer, in very brief, is that in separation, there's every experience of union, if it's on the highest level. Every experience of union. That's what Mahaprabhu and because Mahaprabhu asks the question, and about Mahaprabhu asked the question after describing the dealings between Radha and Krishna. He asks, "I want to hear more." And Ramananda Roy says, "There's nothing more, basically." But then he says, "But there's something more." but I don't know if you're going to be happy to hear it. So then he recites a verse that he himself had written, and Mahaprabhu covers his mouth. But then the verse is written, is written by Kaviraj Goswami, and there's another verse too. And the essence of it is that the purport, in one sense, is that there's no difference at all.
Even in separation and union?
Yeah, and there's no difference. That's the purport of it. But, and this,
Is that the high stage?
this is at the highest stage, because, yeah, this is the conclusion.
Yeah, but my question was very basic, like for a sadhaka, I was thinking like...
Yes, okay, but then the next question that Mahaprabhu asks, and this is, well, how do you achieve this? And that's a different topic, but it's really interesting.
Can you say something?
Yeah, but yes, but not now. And also, it's really interesting, and it's quite unexpected too. Yeah, and it's explained in a wonderful way. The process.
I feel that unless we read more about union, it's difficult for us.
Well, that's part of it. You have to hear. But anyway, it's explained. I mean, obviously not in super detail, but the principles are explained very, very clearly. And part of it is hearing, and that's why Rupa Goswami is empowered by Mahaprabhu, and he's established in the authority in Leela, because you need Leela. But of course, then we have to say, of course, but you have to be qualified, and depending on your qualifications, because we're required to say that. But that's my understanding of what's going on. This is a second empowerment of Rupa Goswami, that for these dramas, because the dramas talk about the Leela, especially Vidagdha Madhava is about the Vrindavan, and then Lalita Madhava is about that even Krishna's feeling the separation, and it's the solace for devotees. And Nava Vrindavan. But yes, so the answer is yes, you need to hear about that, but that's not all. You have to hear about it in the right mood, in the right consciousness, and that's what's described. But you have to hear. Otherwise it won't develop. The desire for being with Krishna won't develop, and therefore the separation, which is the methodology, won't develop. Any other questions?
My question is that if disciple wants to do something, it all depends on the mercy of spiritual master or not. As said here, that
yeah. So yes, but there's two aspects. It's because the spiritual master, he's not an independent entity. He's carrying Krishna's mercy. So what happens can you still get Krishna's mercy after your spiritual master isn't present? Then, yeah, so there's a Guru Tattva principle. And there's Siksha Guru, there's Diksha Guru, so this is explained earlier. But yeah, one needs mercy of representative of Krishna for sure. Yeah, without mercy we can't proceed. And if the devotee is qualified somehow or another, Krishna will find some way to give him mercy.
It depends on endeavor also.
Yeah, the sincere endeavor, of course. It's like the pot has to be proper to hold, proper receptacle to hold the mercy. So therefore, when Prabhupada would write his letters, he would start with, "Please accept my blessings. Here's my blessings. Now are you going to accept them? I'm blessing you, giving you."
There are chances of receiving blessings without being patra.
Yeah, there's causeless mercy. But it's always causeless because you can't force it. And there's nothing you can do to get it in one sense. But if you're a good receptacle, then naturally it attracts mercy. But Krishna doesn't easily give Sudurlabha, the kind of mercy that we're talking about, Bhava Bhakti. It's Sudurlabha because Krishna is controlled by it. So it's not like he's just going to toss it out. Just say everyone. But yet, when Mahaprabhu was traveling in South India, that's what he did. But yet, when he was, and we mentioned this earlier, when he was talking to that Vasudeva, after giving him so much mercy, so there's so many different levels of mercy. So after giving him so much mercy, Mahaprabhu said, when he asked, how do I fear becoming proud? Mahaprabhu said, you always chant and preach, and then Krishna will accept you. So this was after so much mercy. So he gave him some instructions on how to become accepted by Krishna even more deeply. So, there's so many levels. So the first level is, I really want to serve you. I don't. Nadanam najanam nasandari. First level is humility, then that, and just, so this process. Okay. Hare Krishna.